What's up, guys? Welcome to week 11 of the Pokemon Battle League. You got Coach Zache of the Pastoria City Porygon-Zeds here today, and I was facing off with Coach Chris of the Pallet Town Dunsparce. This was an important matchup for, I believe, the both of us because we are in opposite divisions, so my playoff hopes are kind of tied to his. And we both have pretty good records at this point, so this was a big match. So I'm hitting play on the battle now, and we'll hop right into it. This team is probably one of the most, with the addition of Togedemaru, the most standard teams I've used in terms of OU ladder. That's because Chris's team is literally like a standard OU ladder team. So I go ahead and lead with Sally, my Mien Shao, against his Landorus, who I about expected as a lead. And Sally's actually running a Choice Scarf with a point of speed slower than Scarfed Landorus, so I would be able to scout if it was Scarfed Landorus or not. I don't get the chance to find out. He switches into Moltres, which is bad for me because Moltres is not an easy, hard switch for me to get into. So I go ahead and go out to Chief Beef because she can take pretty much anything in the world. It allows me to set up Sandstorm so I can chip Moltres down. Moltres has an issue because the Greninja I'm specifically running only had a 36% chance to one-hit KO Moltres with Surf, which is the move I was running. So Chris goes and pivots around Chief Beef a little bit, trying to either draw the Earthquake or get some different Pokemon in, but it allows me to set up Stealth Rock, which of course is huge because he's got Moltres on his team. So against the Landorus, he defogs, but Chief Beef is carrying Ice Fang specifically because it's a really great switch in for Landorus because of its huge physical defense, and the fact that it could either U-turn out and take chip damage from my Rocky Helmet, and the amount of damage it took from Ice Fang shows me that he is running a defensive Landorus, which is good for me to know because I'll outspeed it. He goes into Primarina, who turns out to be the biggest matchup problem I have this week. I didn't really count on Primarina, and it can hit my whole team pretty hard neutrally, and I don't really have anything on my team that deals well with Primarina because it's got fantastic typing and pretty good stats, especially for this league. So I go ahead and I go into McDonald's because I know she can take at least 2 hits and fire back with a Thunderbolt or a Shift Gear Up. And he gets a crit, which means McDonald's is going to go down in a second move anyway, so I am running fast enough to hit the Primarina for some chip damage, which does put it in range of a Poison Jab from my Mien Shao if need be. And McDonald's goes down, and she was actually I was kind of expecting more from her this week. Other than the Primarina crit, she was geared up to do some big things. So I go ahead and I go into Wish Wash, my Celesteela, who's running a really fun set for me to run if you hate slow battles. So I sub up, which the point of the substitute is even if Moltres runs in, it allows me to get up a Leech Seed or hit it with a Heavy Slam, which even not very effective does about 30% damage, good chip. And it'll force Moltres to take its time and kind of buffer the use of the Z move that I know it's carrying. And I know Moltres loves to carry either Inferno Overdrive or Supersonic Sky Strike, but against my team it would be idiotic not to carry Inferno Overdrive. So that's what I was worried about most of this time. So anything with Celesteela and Registeel on the screen is going to be a bit of a slow battle. They're also 2 of my favorite Pokemon. I think they're cool. But right here was a not very great switch. I think he was anticipating, I'm not sure, probably the Flamethrower, which is common on Celesteela, and instead I'm running Earthquake specifically for this Pokemon, because Raikou messed me up pretty bad. My team is not good against Electric, that's a well-known fact, and it switched in on an Earthquake, which it cannot take 2 of, even though I'm behind a sub, so the substitute, already paying off, lets me fire off another Earthquake, and take out the Raikou and get to +1 attack with my Beast Boost. So Celesteela is sitting pretty. The substitute's gone, which is obviously going to allow Moltres to come in and is going to force me to switch out. But getting rid of Raikou this early is really important for me because I can focus all my effort now onto dealing with Moltres later on. And you'll see Moltres comes in here at half health. I go ahead and I'm able to switch to Rocky Road, my Togedemaru, who was specifically there for Raikou. He has enough bulk to take 2 Shadow Balls and throw off a Toxic, and because Raikou isn't there anymore, he can take the full brunt. I brought this little dude just to die. So he takes the Inferno Overdrive at full force, no holds barred. I went ahead and I went for Toxic just in case he used Fire Blast or missed or something like that. It didn't matter. So I go ahead and I switch into Frog Lace, my Greninja, and at this point I was conflicted with using Ice Beam or Surf because I figured Tapu Bulu was coming out, but I didn't want to over-predict, and I would just hit him for chip damage, and I've got good switch-ins to Tapu Bulu, and I didn't want to risk my Greninja going down. So I do go ahead and go for the Surf, which was the safe move on my part, and it's actually going to do some pretty nice damage to the Tapu Bulu, more than I anticipated it doing. So, me having a big brain, I switch Greninja out from in front of Tapu Bulu, which is really, when you're as advanced at Pokemon battling as I am, you'll see the nuance of that move. And I go to Celesteela, who can take anything from Tapu Bulu pretty handily. I did all my calcs for either a Swords Dance or a Choice Band Tapu Bulu, so I know I can really take just about any hit and fire back with a Heavy Slam that'll be able to one-hit KO no matter where this is living. And I think he knows that, so he goes ahead and goes into Landorus, who I'm going to hit with the Heavy Slam anyway, because it's really, from Celesteela, Heavy Slam is just a really, really, really great move. It does a lot of damage to just about everyone. Unfortunately, it doesn't do enough damage to Landorus, and he lives at what looks to be 1 HP. This lets him defog, which is disappointing to me because from where his health was, and where Moltres is, Moltres was dead at next switch-in, which was important for him to get Landorus in. So I go ahead and I sub up because I know without Continental Crush there's not anything Landorus can do to kill me. He goes ahead and U-turns and doesn't do any damage. And it turns out it was Life Orb Landorus and he goes down. So I use move, doesn't matter. There's nothing I could have done there that would have been the right move to use, so that's fine. The grassy terrain was actually something that gave me issues because I am running Earthquake on my Celesteela. It meant that dealing with Registeel was going to take more time. So he switches into Moltres, free of Stealth Rock, and roosts up. I opted to stay in because I'm behind a sub, and I went for the Heavy Slam just in case he didn't roost. It would do about 30% damage, so leave it where he had the option of either killing me or roosting and put him in a hard spot. So he did roost, so it didn't matter. And he goes for Fire Blast to break my sub, which he goes ahead and hits. And Wishy-Wash pops back out. And I go ahead and I go for the Leech Seed because it'll either give me some residual healing on whoever I switch out into, or it'll force Moltres to switch regardless. So at this point, because I'm not behind a sub and because he can kill me, actually from this amount of HP, I'm not sure he'll guaranteed kill me with Fire Blast. I think I survive any Fire Blast. I go to Chief Beef because Chief Beef has these specs to take out, or to take 2 Hurricanes or 2 Fire Blasts no matter what, and for the same reason it sets up chip damage and I can slowly wear down the Moltres. Moltres U-turns out, does about 2 damage to me and takes the Rocky Helmet damage, and goes out to Primarina, which put me in a tough spot here because I didn't really have a switch in for this Primarina. So what I opt to do is I'm gonna sack Chief Beef because her main purpose was dealing with Raikou, but Chief Beef actually ends up living from the Sparkling Aria and is able to fire off an Earthquake, which I calced if I did live, well then I want to do a little bit of damage, and I end up getting the KO. And at first I thought it was a defensive Primarina from what it took from Thunderbolt, but now I'm realizing it must have been an Assault Vest pre-Marina. So Moltres comes back out, and Moltres is able to pick up the KO on Chief Beef. I went for Stealth Rock just in case he roosted, and I could get rocks back up because Landorus is done. He switches into Tapu Bulu, which means I'm immediately going to go back into Celesteela, who's my Tapu Bulu answer. So yeah, the Sandstorm, everything with Sandstorm and Terrain, and especially when I have Leech Seed or Toxic out, it just takes forever. So I go back into Wish Wash, who's going to be able to do again, take anything from Celesteela. From Tapu Bulu. He goes into Registeel, and I just used this opportunity. I knew he'd either switch or not do enough damage to me, and I'd be moving second, and I'd end the turn with a substitute. So I went for sub, and I get to chill behind a sub for a minute. What's annoying to me is I had my HP set. I have 203 HP, which means each of my substitutes, I didn't calculate it just right. I needed one more HP point for Registeel's Seismic Toss to not be able to break my sub. So each Seismic Toss is going to be able to break my sub, but I get back a pretty good amount of health every time, where if this is to continue, I will eventually win out with damage once the terrain goes away. So substitute here, I'm just stalling out the terrain, stalling out Registeel's life very, very, very slowly, but I would have won out in this matchup, again, once terrain was gone and I was able to hit with Earthquakes, which do about 30 to 40%, I think, to Registeel. So yeah, big metal bodies, this happens for a while. So Chris pulls out Registeel, goes into Moltres, which is fine. I go ahead and I sub up again because I was like, I can do this all day, and he Captain America, he's like, oh no. No comments on each other's butts. So the terrain is gone, and this time I'm anticipating Moltres to go for the roost like it did before, and I catch him on that, and I go ahead and fire back with an Earthquake, anticipating that roost, and damn, I wish I had a little bit more attack investment. So it brings him down easily within Heavy Slam range, so I don't really have to worry about him roosting again. So my next move, oh, I forget, I either Leech Seed or I Heavy Slam on this one. I should have Heavy Slammed. Looking at it now, no matter what happened, I should have used Heavy Slam. So he goes into Registeel. I think I do Leech Seed then, because I don't think I used Heavy Slam on any Registeels. Yeah. So I Leech Seed. I figured it would either force Moltres out if it broke its sub and allow... I would have switched Greninja in. It would have allowed me to get some health back, and Greninja survives every attack pretty handily. And this lets me get back into our lovely little Leech Seed match with Registeel, but this time without the terrain up. And so he goes into Tapu Bulu here, and I think this is the point where I had predicted Tapu Bulu coming out to reset the terrain, which, yeah, I go for the Heavy Slam, which does some massive damage to Bulu, and is able to take Bulu out in one hit. So I had anticipated his terrain being reset, which was important to protect Moltres and for Registeel. And of course, with Registeel out, he's expecting me to go for Earthquake, especially because I'm already Leech Seeded, so just a little bit of expert prediction there. So now Registeel comes out, and at this point, he had messaged me GG. The match is over here. Registeel, it's either going to be a slow death by Leech Seed, and yeah, he can't Thunder Wave me behind the sub. That was the whole point of the sub, because I've had some beautiful Celesteela sets ruined by Thunder Wave at least 2 times this season. So yeah, the game is over, and even if Celesteela stalling didn't work, I had Choice Scarf Greninja in the back, which would be able to easily deal with Moltres, and if it's Ash Greninja, I think it still does 40% with Dark Pulse or Surf. And I also had Choice Scarf Mienshao in the back, which was spec to do over 50% damage with each drain punch that it's using. I used a drain punch over high jump kick because high jump kick is super easy to plan for. So I had contingency plans. The Mienshao was also carrying Stone Edge because that's what I like. It's my my Moltres measure when I'm playing UU is I like to Scarf a Mienshao, and they'll send in a Moltres to Supersonic Sky Strike, and I'll take the risk and roll the dice with Stone Edge every time. It's pretty fun. So I had two very good contingency Pokemon sitting in the back, but Celesteela was really just able to get it done this week. I'm expecting a pretty big standout performance, not only in, I think, 4 KOs for Celesteela, but also if Leech Seed, I don't know if Leech Seed counts as status set. It should count for something, and tanked hits. It took, I don't know how many tanked hits. So yeah, finally I've had big dreams for Celesteela pretty much all season. I've been trying to do something with it, and it's been good for tanking hits and coming in and just using it as a mid-ground pivot. But for this turn, I finally got to use a Sweeper Celesteela, which is my favorite way to use it because it's so stupid. So yeah, that was my match with Chris. Really fun match, really great one to play. I'm happy that it worked out to be pretty clean all around. We didn't have any stupid hacks. He hit all his Fire Blasts. I hit all my Leech Seeds. I didn't have to resort to Stone Edge or anything like that. Really good match. Puts me in a really good standing for the division. I'm feeling good about this one, and I don't have any fun gimmicks to do. I don't know. That's it. I'm looking forward to next week. I think we're getting back into divisional matchups coming up, so yeah, go ahead if you want to watch my battle from last week. I'll put the battle code somewhere so everyone can watch the worst battle in the world with Ian. I'll sum it up for everyone. We battled with teams we already had set on our DSs from the previous matchups, which meant he had a bunch of special walls and I had a bunch of physical walls, and it just turns into like 50 turns of Slowbro trying to kill Chansey and Chansey trying to kill Slowbro, and throw in a Snorlax and Hippowdon in the mix, and it just goes like that forever. So, but it was a good match and let me feel like I earned a win rather than just getting the forfeit win from last week. So if I feel better about myself, that's all that matters. Okay, thank you everyone, and goodbye.